Welcome in, folks. Let's get our Facebook friends up in here before it's officially time to go for the show. Hit and save changes. Spinning wheels. 1 and 2. All right, welcome in. Welcome in. It is Thursday morning, June 16th, halfway through the month of June, and it's not as sweltering hot here today. We had a big storm come through last night, which I was enjoying. My wife's one of her dogs, though, absolutely freaks out with the storms, barking and going absolutely nuts. So a little less enjoyable than typical, but doing well. How are you doing, Scott? What's new?
Good. Just middle of June baseball season for the kids, and Braves have won 14 in a row. Knock on
Holy
wood.
cow.
So Broncos finishing up their mini camps. Had a day off of sorts yesterday, but doesn't mean there isn't plenty to talk about. The plenty that they've done, and plenty of speculation going around the NFL. So I'm doing well, Nick. Thank you for asking. Missed you yesterday on Forging the Falcon. So.
Yeah. Hopefully everything went smooth yesterday morning and yesterday evening. I was a little bit preoccupied with stuff going on, and going to be pretty busy the next 72 hours. Hell, God, probably next 5 days because we have to talk about the drive back as well across country. But doing well overall. Excited for everything coming up, and excited to talk some ball today. You kind of touched on something real quick, and I want to get into it just a little bit as we let the chat breathe a bit and let people come in and say hi and drop their likes and subscribe on the way in. The Broncos field day yesterday. It's something that they've had many times over the last, few seasons, that last day of mini camps, doing a little bit more fun team bonding activities, just some, I guess, low stakes silliness going on there and some fun. Mm-hmm. Do you have any strong opinions about this? Because apparently on Twitter yesterday, some people at some areas of the Broncos media kind of had I guess we'll just call it a shit fit about the Broncos having a field day. Like, oh, we knew they weren't serious. Now we know for sure they're not serious. That's what they've been doing these last few years when they've been a losing franchise, having these field days. If they really were serious about competing and whatnot, they'd be doing a mini camp today rather than this the field day stuff.
Something I like to say, and no, I wasn't a psychology major. I didn't have to be. Just pay attention to human beings. And my guess is that was local media who went to the facility and weren't told in advance that there wouldn't be a practice and availability and all that type of stuff, and they're pissed. I'll give you 99% that it has something to do with it. That person, whoever tweeted that stuff out, was somehow inconvenienced by the fact that they did that. Whether it's I have a deadline and I was supposed to write something up and now I have this, or I wasted my time coming over here. That person who was the most vocal about having a problem with it was personally inconvenienced, because at the end of the day, people are selfish. Mm-hmm. So do I have a strong opinion about it? I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing that they go out there and do, especially with the new coaching staff, new quarterback, new culture. These guys have been putting in work on their own a lot. So they've been coming in early and staying late. If you're looking at the minimum that they could be doing from a NFL union standpoint with organized team activities, they have met that, and then they have gone above and beyond. So I'll tell you right now, the person or few people who had the biggest problem with it, they were personally inconvenienced and they're pissed.
Yeah, that's a good theory. I don't disagree. This is I hate to breathe too much air into it because we're talking about, another media platform and other people. And I think at its core, this whole argument and discussion, which I just logged onto Twitter for a little bit, and my eyes almost permanently stayed in my head with how many eye rolls I had. Not because of Mark Schrader coming in here. Thank you so much, Mark. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're back. Was the cardiologist or back that you had? I can't remember what ailment between you and your significant other we're having there, but hopefully you're doing well there, Mark, down there in Texas. Hopefully the heat also isn't melting you down to just a puddle of a person down there in the heart of Texas. But I won't breathe name in the station or the name that did this, but I think the bottom line with the person who kind of was hooting and hollering about this is it's disingenuous. I think it's being hot takey and against something and inflammatory for the sake of that, because guess what? We're talking about it right now, kind of backhanded wise, and it was all over Twitter yesterday.
Here's the thing, Nick. I don't know who it was. I don't care.
Yeah.
No. I don't care. That's not an opinion that affects me one way or another. I don't care.
Yep.
As Ethan says, stay off Twitter. Yeah, I don't. I don't go hunting for those things. So
No.
who said it, or if it was multiple people that said it, my guess is they're local. I'd put a lot of money on that, but I don't know, because I don't care. I don't care what that person has to say. I really don't. Unless you're putting out news, guys, we're in the opinion business. If you want to ask, if I want to know what Nick thinks, I'll ask him. If you want to know what I think, ask me. I don't care what a beat writer thinks. I just don't. I don't care about something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Whatever.
I agree with you. Stay off Twitter. It was just silly. And it's a reporter who continuously has kind of inflammatory, eye roll inducing takes. So, if you want to,
if it was Zach, just say Zach. No, I'm just kidding.
It wasn't Zach.
I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
Not Zach. Definitely
Zach likes to stir the pot some a little bit, though.
He does.
But he's pretty consistent with it. He doesn't. He might grab onto it, be a dog with a bone, but he's not a hypocrite. He's not a hypocrite about it. He may. I don't happen to have to agree with him.
Yep.
I fully embrace everybody's willingness and right to be wrong. But he doesn't flip flop on based on just the outrage media. I'm going to be mad to be mad, or I'm going to take the opposite take just to take the opposite take. That stuff, like you said, it's disingenuous, it's dishonest.
Yep. It's frustrating. And my best advice to you people, if you know what I'm talking about or who I'm talking about, do not engage. Just keep scrolling, look the other way, because the rage machine only works if it's being fed, and it was being fed yesterday. A lot of people probably clicking on the article and engaging. Just do not engage. But moving on now, let's say hello to some people in here as we're coming in. Ethan, good afternoon, gents in Broncos country. Hope you're doing well down there. Ethan, over there, over in London. We also got Dale coming in. Dale, been thinking about you a lot this week. I appreciated the message you sent me yesterday as well. Natalie and her family is doing well. It was a celebration of life for her grandmother's funeral yesterday. So it was kind of weird hanging out at the house after the grandparents' house afterwards. And I guess I'll share a little bit of personal info for me. I've been with Natalie since junior prom of high school. We've been together 13 years, which for a 30-year-old is a long time, which gives me the benefit of
a 50-year-old. That's a long time these days, Nick.
Yeah, true. So yeah, high school sweetheart, blah, 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 whatever. But that gives me the benefit of having to really actually know a lot of Natalie's family and whatnot. So a lot of Christmases and events with both her grandparents who are now gone. So it was a long emotional day, but celebration of life overall. So it was a good day, I would say. We also got, of course, Toyin coming in here, not Tanya. Toyin. I think one time I said Tanya. Sorry, Toyin. Toyin's an awesome name. Toyin's an awesome name, though. That's really cool.
Cool name.
Good morning and afternoon, Broncos country. Good to see you. We also got US Dave coming in saying milk and donuts. Y'all, where's the coffee? That's what I'm asking. Dave Glassman in the house with the hearts. Thank you so much, Dave. Good to see you. We also got Johnny Blaze coming in saying, let's go Abs. Yeah, what a game last night. I'm not really much of a fan of the frozen stickball. As you guys know, I tune in to watch the Olympic hockey every once in a while. And if the Blues make a run in the playoffs, I might try to tune in, but I just don't have the love for the game. Also, football takes up so much time that don't have the resources or time to really get into it like I'd like to. But yeah, definitely pulling for the Avs. And it looks like a lot of those people in Broncos country were celebrating big time last night. I guess good morning to you folks who are working off that hangover out there in Broncos country, really enjoying the Avalanche's big win yesterday over the Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't even know. Clint Ashworth.
Where did the Avs come from? They weren't an expansion. Where'd they move from?
I have no idea.
Anybody? All those old teams I used to play with, like 95 hockey, are now American teams that I don't know who was who. The Coyotes, I know the Minnesota North Stars were, they moved to Dallas. That was a long time ago. Winnipeg Jets, the Canucks, all those teams. I don't even know who's still around anymore.
They were the Quebec Nordics.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. From 1972 to 1979, and then 1979 to 1995. So sorry, you darn French-speaking Canadians. And also you have the whole chat here saying it's Quebec as well. Quebec.
Yep. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you very much. And Clint's, good morning, fellas. Good morning to you, Clint. Hope you're doing well. Hopefully your coffee is nice and hot and enjoying it. I'm enjoying it this morning myself. What game or games are you guys looking forward to the most this season for the Broncos? Well, for me, I am, not to make it all about me, but I'm really hoping to get this monkey off my personal back and see the Broncos get a win for the first time in my life. I will say I did see the Broncos win a preseason game back when I was a little kid. It was would have been the 1999 preseason game. The Broncos played at the St. Louis Rams and didn't get to see John Elway because he was coming off back surgery, I think, after that 1998 Super Bowl win. And I did see them win a preseason game, but I'm 0-7 seeing them live in the regular season. So hoping to get a win week 1 against the Seahawks. Other than that, I mean, gosh, I'm really excited for the games against Kansas City, both of them. And I'm also excited for the game at Las Vegas. I really think Denver can go in and kind of, I don't understand where all this Vegas hype is coming from, but I think Denver can go into Vegas and really put the smackdown on them and kind of be like, okay, there's a tier difference here in the division. The Raiders are not the same.
Game 1's always exciting.
Yeah.
But, this one's going to have national storylines. It's got Russell Wilson going back to Seattle. So, I mean, game 1 is easy. You want to say, man, I can't wait for the first game of the season. That's an easy one. But this one's really, it's got a little extra juice to it. So, that one. And, if I'm willing to, if I'm able to get out and over to London, I want to go over there. And with Chad and Zach's, I haven't pushed this by them yet, but with Chad and Zach's new affiliation with Mile High Sports on the radio, maybe we can get a booth where we can do the show live streaming there and get some help technically to pull that off rather than me setting up a cell phone or something. And we can do some stuff from there, from location. We'll work on that. Fixture List came out today, actually, for soccer, and Chelsea is away on the 29th. However, Brighton and Hove Albion is a really cool place to see a match, so might have to head down to the South Coast. I'm pretty sure that's where Brighton is. My best friend's been there. He told me about it. Head down to the South Coast and go see Brighton and Chelsea, and then there'll be lots of matches around there. So the whole experience, the whole London trip, should be is one that I'm looking forward to. But game one is a little extra special this year.
Yeah. I will say the other game that I'm really looking forward to right now that maybe doesn't have the big national narrative, although it will be the week of the game, is the week 3 game that a lot of Mile High Huddle staff will be attending. Make sure you guys are trying to get out there as well. A Sunday night game, I believe, versus the San Francisco 49ers. And I think that's a game where the Broncos have a chance to announce themselves. I mean, if the Broncos, go into Seattle and beat the Geno Smith-led Seahawks, not many people are going to be. Russell Wilson, okay, going home. Seahawks team, it's definitely a rebuilding team. 2 first-round picks in 2023, et cetera, et cetera. Pete Carroll, John Schneider probably on the way out. Week 2, Houston Texans battling for the first overall pick in the NFL draft this upcoming year, probably. So people could definitely write off the Broncos starting off 2-0. But then there's that week 3 game against the 49ers. Will it be Trey Lance? Will it be Jimmy Garoppolo? Either way, the Broncos are going to have to go up against a very good defense. Nick Bosa.
That's a home game, though, right?
It's a home game. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I was like, looking at the schedule, it's like your tough games are at home and your winnable games are, on the road. The ones that you should win in a neutral environment. It's like this schedule sets up really nicely to gel early.
Yeah.
And get going. If you get off to a bit of a slower start, it hurts you, especially in this schedule because it's backloaded. The schedule's backloaded on this one. I think we went through it and I was like 7. I think we were both like 7-2 after 9, 6-2 after 8, something like that. There's 3 tough games in a row, but you should be favored in all 3 of them.
Yeah. But that 49ers game specifically, why am I looking forward to it? I think that team matches up interestingly with the Broncos, where we will have some serious questions asked. Number 1 being right tackle for the Broncos. You're going up against Nick Bosa, who's probably one of the top 3 edge rushers in football right now. He's a game breaker, one of the best in the game. And you have questions at right tackle. Billy Turner, Calvin Anderson, Tom Compton, Lord knows there. You're going to have some answers after going against Nick Bosa. The other one is, how good is this Broncos defense going to be at stopping the run? The 49ers don't have an elite running back, but they have an elite run scheme that they can utilize. So you're going to really find out a lot about the Broncos and 2 of their biggest questions about just how good they can be this season in that 49ers game. So excited for that one. Also excited for Michael popping that super chat cherry coming in here with the big orange one, $20, saying, "Good morning, Nick and Scott on Broncos for breakfast. Let's ride and go Broncos." Thank you so much, Michael. Hope you're doing well. Good to see you. Hopefully you're not burning to death down there in Tucson, Arizona, man. It's got to be
105. Like, oh, spring. It's nice.
But it's a dry heat.
This isn't bad.
It's a dry heat.
They're out there with parkas. It's only 100.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it on Tuesday night. I was out there fishing Monday, and we were in cloud cover, but there was a breeze, but it felt like a dog breathing on you, kind of heat.
When it
in
feels
your
like
face.
A hairdryer blowing on you. You know it's hot.
Yep.
It's like 85 in sunny can be brutally hot in the sun, but you get in the shade and a little breeze. It's like, oh, this is nice. That's how you know when it's not too hot out there. When you get in the shade and you're sweating and the wind blows and it feels like you're under one of those big hair dryers that you see in the salons, then you know it's hot. Got an 8 o'clock baseball game tonight, and the heat index last night at 8 o'clock was 97. It was 90 degrees, feels like 97. I'm like, all right, that's hot for a Southerner. That's hot. Yeah. That's hot no matter where you are. So, but once that sun dips down, it doesn't feel too bad. But hydrate, fellas. Hydrate, y'all, while you're out there. And Cody coming in. Nights to mornings. Missed some episodes, but I'm here. Well, we're glad you're here, Cody. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate you jumping in on the chat. Appreciate you coming in blue today, coming in with the super chat. So thanks for coming in, and thanks for your support, my friend.
Yeah, thank you so much, Cody. Also want to say hello to Mark Coleman. Broncos looking good. Thank you so much, Mark. Good to see you. Also see Travis Weber's in the house. Good to see you, Travis. We also have, here he comes. There we go. Good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. Nick, my prayers and condolences to you, Natalie, and the family. Yeah, and now we drive down to my sister's wedding today to start getting all that stuff together. So it's busy. No, there's no sleep for the
flip the script like that.
Yeah.
It's the cycle of, there it is. There's life right there.
Yeah, exactly. No other announcements as far as the cycle of life, so we'll keep it going there, at least as far as I know. Greg Smith coming in saying, good morning, Broncos for breakfast. Aloha to you, Greg. Hopefully you're doing well. And we also have Travis kind of kicking us off, leading the witness, so to speak, with our topic today. So let's get into Travis's comment here first, and then we'll kind of get into our main topic today with about, half an hour, 40 minutes left, saying the Broncos offensive line on paper might look average, but with a new system that fits better for them and better quarterback play, Broncos will be great and, knock on wood, stay healthy. Hey, Scott, how about those Braves? 14 straight. So I had to get in that Braves comment there. But overall, the offensive line talk here. So I agree with Travis's take more or less. Obviously, we'll get into more of the nuance here. But I think that Pro Football Focus ranking them at 16th in the NFL is exceedingly fair. The Broncos offense right now, they do have some serious questions, but I like the depth. And I think that more or less, you are looking at what should be a league average offensive line. Now, where they end up as far as the variance could be what make or breaks this offense this year. Really, like it's the questions on the offensive line and just how good they can be is going to dictate a lot of my perspective on whether this offense can be average, good, or elite.
Yeah, and the thing, they're willing to talk names just about for everybody, but there were 5 coaches up on Tuesday, and they started talking Albert Okwuegbunam, Ojimudi. Let me see if I can pick out any harder names to spit off the top of my head. I could say Uzarike too. Yep. No, they weren't talking about him, but then they get to the right tackle position, and Justin Outen, Coach Outen, offensive coordinator, saying, yeah, putting in some good work there, and doesn't name a soul. Isn't so and so's really doing good there. It was very, very coach speak. Yeah, it was. Putting in some good work, learning the schemes, getting better, and like blah, 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 blah. It's still a question mark. That's what I read into that. We don't know at right tackle yet. It's still a big question heading into the offseason. Yeah. The offseason-ish, whatever you want to call this 6 weeks. Is this 6 weeks the offseason, or is it a summer break? What do we want to call it?
Yeah, that's big questions. And it's one of the things that with OTAs and mini camps and whatnot, you hear about, player so-and-so has been wrecking practice. Okay, that's good, but that means somebody on the Broncos is getting beat like a drum. So we won't figure out
in shorts and t-shirts,
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
That too. Yeah. God, you're right on that one. But again, it's all zero sum in that regard. So that's one reason I really, really like the combined practices that these teams have been doing, I guess, more so in the last 5 to 7 years. And I think the Broncos have a combined practice with the Dallas Cowboys this season as well. So you should actually get a pretty good idea on some of these guys, because that's a solid Cowboy roster. I know we like to disparage the Cowboys as like anybody besides the Cowboys fans. Pick on Jerry Jones and Skip Bayless and all those 90s Cowboys fans. Did you see the clip this week from the weatherman talking about the weather forecast? And he's like, this week's weather forecast is the Cowboys. It all peaks in the 90s. It was great. They're all over Twitter.
That's a good line. Going back to what we talked about with Alton, the quote, and I didn't pull this up yet today on video, or else I'd play it just real quick. It's on your evaluation of players who have played right tackle. He says, I think those guys have stepped up to the plate. I think asking those guys to run off the ball typically when they're not used to doing that is going out of their element a little bit.
Yeah.
I thought they did a really good job of stepping up. They're coming along. That is a canned answer. You could have asked him, what do you think about the punters? And that would have been, he's like, I don't know, I'm not watching them. And that would have been the answer you've gotten.
Yeah.
That's concerning, especially talking about this. So you said, the PFF rankings at 16 seems to be, exceedingly fair. I think it actually might be a shade high at 16. Moving up to average, dead in the middle, I think would be a step up from what we saw last year. So have they improved? And the interesting part for me, Nick, is looking at this. They say projected starting lineup: Bowles, Reissner, Cushenberry, Glasgow, Turner. That's 5. How many of those 5 are actually going to start week 1? 3? 4?
I would
Maybe
guess
all
right now.
5?
Yeah. Well, the big one that's shocking to me there, and sorry, my sister's cat is in the background.
Cats
Hi,
do not
Obi.
like closed doors.
Hey, Obi, hope you're doing well. He's sweet. He's kind of a little bit of a ball, but he looks very scared at me. You're definitely right in your perspective. I think the biggest shock to me here is listing Graham Glasgow as the starter, and that's no disparage to Graham Glasgow. He's one of my favorite people on Twitter because he offers insight and good perspective, and he also doesn't back down. He's the perfect balance between knowing when to engage and when not to, and offering insight and some levity as well. So if Graham Glasgow does start at right guard this year, good for him. But I think you have a chance of don't sleep on Tom Compton there as well. He's somebody that I think the coaching staff likes more than the Broncos fans and media have been talking about enough. I think he's got a real shot to start somewhere. Mm-hmm. And also the question marks of Glasgow at right guard. I mean, if you were drafting, let's say just overall, you had the Broncos offensive line players in a draft. We could each pick one after the other. Quinn Miners is probably the second guy off the board, isn't he? In my opinion, I think he's your. Obviously, there's a big floor there, difference, but like value wise.
I want to say hey to Gary Lees Palmer. Appreciate you coming in, Gary. He says, hey, Nick and Scott, love Broncos for breakfast. Go Broncos and let's ride. Yes, sir. Let's ride, Gary.
Thanks so much.
There has been a conspicuous lack of noise around Miners, and part of that is, again, you're in maybe I don't even know if they're in shoulder pads at all. I think it's just the underwear Olympics is what we call it. It's just shorts and jerseys. It's just t-shirts. They're out there doing that. What is Quinn Miners going to excel if he's not hitting somebody? If he's not moving somebody, is he going to look like, oh, yeah, he's a really fluid athlete and I love his footwork and he gets up and down the field? No, what he does is mash people. And you're not allowed to do that yet. It's almost like, oh, the linebackers and the running backs. You don't evaluate linebackers and running backs in a 7-on-7 non-contact environment. I feel the same way about Miners. So it's been quiet, exceedingly quiet around Miners this offseason, but there's a legitimate reason for it. Wait till the pads come on. Let's see once the pads come on. Let's see some of those mixed practices because he's not going to excel in this environment where it's basically just learning and running around.
Yeah. I would say that you'd hope that he would somewhat stand out given his athletic profile. He tested dynamically and looks dynamic as a mover on space. So, obviously the popping the guys and the targeting linebackers, defensive backs at the second level is where the highlights are going to come from. So you're not going to see that as much, but he is the testing wise. And from what I saw on tape last year, the caliber of athlete that, there still might be some hype on him. So that's something you want to watch out for there. Let's say hello to a few more people before we get back into the offensive line discussion here. Dom in here saying, good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. Safe travels, Nick. You also got Lawrence Rivera saying, Nick, it's been a long time since we've seen the hair. I love it. Yep. I woke up like this, literally. No, I just had to kind of enough product in it to kind of just, put it back into its place. So thank you so much. And we also got Ethan coming in saying Glasgow isn't starting over the belly. What do you think about, obviously I think we've had some takes on here about Graham Glasgow and his ability, but it sounds like he's close to healthy. The Broncos kept him. And when he's out there, I think he's been more or less competent. I don't think he's a dynamic player, but you don't have to have dynamism on the offensive line. You need solid, consistent, not getting beat, just the boring average kind of guy, that like 9-to-5 husband. That's
blue collar, do your job, don't get called out.
Yep.
He was a $14 million a year guard for a reason at some point, wasn't he? I mean,
Yeah.
so, you'd think he's got the tools and the talent. If you can get some of that back, great.
Yep.
But again, the one guy we haven't really heard anything about is Miners.
Yeah.
We're talking about Glasgow here, penciled in as a starter. And again, PFF, they did 32 times 15. We'll call that 450, 480 names they put in starting lineups. So they don't know everybody as well as, we might know the Broncos for sure, which is fine. But they know the Baltimore Ravens better than I do. I promise you that. They know the starting lineup of the Houston Texans better than I do. I promise you that. But we know the Broncos better than they do. And listen, that might not be the guys that are going to end up starting. They're probably just going by and sorting by, their PFF rankings and saying, okay, this is who I would put here. He graded out the best and he had the most snaps last year. Let's put him back in it. But to Mark coming in with the big stars, Mark, huge, coming in, huge stars, said, I like the comments on Muti and Reissner. I know it's coach speak to agree. I agree with 16, but I feel if we stay healthy, we could get into the top 10. Now I do actually happen, again, mentioning guys by name. The one we haven't heard is Miners. We've heard Muti and Reissner, and I actually have this video where he was talking about it, the surprises on the offensive line. I'm going to play that real quick.
I'll tell you, he's done a really good job. I mean, he's running off the ball. He's a big, strong interior lineman, and I love he has some great celebrations too. Whenever we get touchdowns, those have been showing up. But he's picked it up really well. He's been a big surprise for us throughout this whole offseason, and excited to see him keep rolling. He's another one that has been an absolute unbelievable surprise. I mean, we've brought this whole system into this whole organization, this outside zone world, and it hasn't been that way. And I mean, he is really bought in, and he is doing a fine job running off the ball, great in pass protection. I mean, he's done a really good job. Really excited where he's at.
So again, how much of that is, as Mark says, is coach speak? But it was this time it was specific players. I feel like while I mentioned that Coach Outen would say something like, the usual, oh, they're working hard, they're doing this. I feel like sometimes to the point that Coach Nathaniel Hackett is going to say, oh, doing great. Love him out here, working hard. It's like, he wasn't there today, Coach. Yeah, but when he is here, he's really working hard, and we love what he's doing and runs around and hitting people and really picking up the offense, buying into what we're doing here. And so sometimes it gets hard to tell. Like I said, I'm looking forward to, and I'm sure they are too, obviously. These guys, while we live and breathe football, this is beyond. If you're in the coaching profession, you've slept on couches somewhere as a 20-year-old to get where you are. And I guarantee you they can't wait till the pads come on. Yeah. That's what they're looking for. They try and tone down the rhetoric and the hot takes this time of year to listen. These are installs. We want to learn. We want to stay healthy. We want to get better. That's what you'll hear that over and over again. Please try and calm down with the hot takes on who's here and who's here until it starts to matter in camp when the pads come on.
Yeah, absolutely. And sorry about the cat bombing in the background. Okay. But yeah, I definitely agree. Do you?
If you've never had a cat, the fun thing about the cat is if you let the cat out and shut the door, it'll be banging on the door on the other side. Cats do not like closed doors. But what they do like, just put a box in the middle of the floor, an open box, cat will climb right in it and sit there content for the next 20 minutes.
Yep. That's my sister's number one baby. She also has a 3-legged cat who is not the nicest in the world. But we like this one. So yeah, do you have any thoughts on? So they talked about Muti and Reissner here. For my money, and this isn't it would be awesome. I'm cheering for all these guys, but for me at the guard position specifically, right now, knock on wood on that regard. Here's some wood over here. It seems almost like too many cooks in the kitchen as far as quality and the options. I mean, you have 5 guys right there, and not all of these guys are positionally flexible. I mean, you talk about Compton guard, Reissner guard, Muti guard, Glasgow guard, other options there as well, Miners guard as well. Right now, it does seem like that's a position where the Broncos maybe can skiff off some of their depth for a draft pick in the 2023 draft, or maybe kind of do a thing where they get some draft capital this way and then trade it off elsewhere on the roster.
So to your point, on this, talking these guys up or whatnot. And you're mentioning it. So yesterday or Tuesday, Nick, when we were talking about the wide receivers and how I like to talk about, if I want to talk about unit rankings, I absolutely take depth into consideration. That's why we're ranking the unit, not just the very top. At the very top, that's how I would do quarterbacks, because only one can play. Yeah. But, we're mentioning all these guys, Nick, and I look at the offensive line and look at the depth there. It's like, okay, I might not love my starters, but there's no drop-off there. No. I've got several backups that have starting experience in this league. To your point, now I've got several backups with starting experience in this league. Who needs a guard? Who needs a guard, and what can I get for him if I need to move somebody? You think Netane Muti would upgrade the Atlanta Falcons left guard position with Jalen Mayfield, who finished dead last in pass protection on PFF's grades? Yeah, he would. And Mayfield, it was a third-round pick just last year, but he's 21 years old. There's still time there. Bring in a veteran, a cheaper veteran. You think Muti would help? You're probably going to have to hold on to Glasgow because of the salary a little bit, but Muti is there. Reissner is there. Miners isn't going anywhere. But you mentioned a lot of names and some good quality depth that are better than some of the players that are around the league that are starting. So, yes, Nick, I agree with you wholeheartedly. It makes sense.
Yeah. And the two that, for me, just roster structure-wise, this isn't an indictment on these players specifically, but more just the way the contracts are set up and where you can get value. The two that make sense as far as trade to me would be Dalton Reissner, who's been a 3-year starter for the Broncos at left guard, but maybe they can get a 4th-round pick for him and put Tom Compton there, who there's been some chatter about him at left guard, or Netane Muti. But we'll see. Again, that's not a shot at those guys. The fact that they have value, you could bring something in, is speaking up that they have some sort of juice there in value. So we have that guy, Aaron, coming in saying, I say top 10 for the Broncos offensive line. Hopefully, we'll see about that. And we also got Colin Wood giving me a hard time saying a Mariner shirt and a chai soy latte. Yeah, I'll lean into it. I'm more of a vanilla latte guy. However, I just had one the other day that was it was a blackberry latte. Phenomenal. God, so good.
All right. So, and I'm drinking my coffee black, and my filter's not pressing quite enough. So every once in a while, I'll bottom this up and go
crunchies.
Like, wait a minute, it's not supposed to be gravelly at the bottom. No, it's not a shot at those guys. To your point, you were just saying that the shot about, it's actually a compliment to them that we think that the backup guys could be starters somewhere else. That's a compliment to them. It's not a shot at them. And frankly, they want to start. Hey, if I'm not going to start, my agent's been talking with, the Houston Texans. I could start over there. Do you think you could work something out? They want to start. So if they're not going to, they've got starting experience in a league that desperately needs some. These guys get recycled all the time, former starters. They're young-ish for the most part. They're not all that expensive, and they've got plenty of starts under their belts. So, yes, when we're looking around at places where you might be able to trade off some excess, the offensive line makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Let's see what specifically Pro Football Focus says here before we move on here. Writing in here, the Broncos projected line, you mentioned it, the Bowles at left, Reissner at left guard, Bowles at left tackle, Reissner at left guard, Cushenberry the third at center, Glasgow at right guard, and Billy Turner at right tackle. And they write, this lineup could look a lot different should center Lloyd Cushenberry take another step forward. He went from a 40.5 graded as a rookie to a more respectable 64.2 mark in 2021. If we see another such improvement, Broncos line will be solid as it can be across the board. Definitely, that's the one that I thought this offseason, especially in the draft, it fell the right way. The Broncos would maybe look to bring in an option there. I had heard from multiple sources now just pressing on this one that if Cam Jurgens had fallen to the 64th pick, there would have been a discussion about that. So getting a starter there, I think he went mid-second round to the Philadelphia Eagles, if I recall. So some options there. The Broncos definitely, this is a position that they have some questions, but a lot of good stuff about Cushenberry as well. He was a part of that offensive line for the LSU Tigers that won the best offensive line award. I think it's the Outland Trophy. When he was with LSU, he started his rookie season as a center, which is not typical. If you in Broncos country remember Matt Paradis, who was a really good center for the Broncos for a while, his rookie season, practice squad, McGovern, also as Broncos starting center for a while. Rookie season, practice squad. So Cushenberry coming in year one at starting at center, especially considering the volatility at the quarterback position behind him. This does speak out to his intelligence. Doesn't surprise me too much how much they are talking about his ability to comprehend things, to digest information, and to leading the Quizlet test they're having or whatever they're calling those things. So excited to see about that. Big questions for Cushenberry for me are ones that aren't intelligence related as much as they are physical ability related. The ability to anchor against powerful nose tackles. Way too often, he just could not drop his hips and sink. He is kind of long-legged from what I've seen of him, and that can lead him to some issues with dropping the anchor and really, setting an anchor against powerful nose tackles, ending up in a quarterback's lap from time to time. And the biggest question, the run game, his ability to combo block and climb to the second level. Not a dynamic athlete for the center position from what I've gathered watching him.
Yeah, and while they're singing praises again, show me, the Missouri in both of us is I want to see it. I don't want to hear about it. I want to see it. Show me. And Cushenberry was a bit, Cushenberry and Glasgow in there together were a liability in the trenches last year. So how does that get better? Well, part of it gets better with, if Miners comes in and starts. Going back to the idea that someone could be moved, you're talking about almost a $3 million cap savings on Reissner if he's moved. He's got about a 3.6 salary and an 800 dead cap. You're saving $3 million for moving. If he's not starting, now that's not that much for your next guy in. That's not that expensive, but what can you get back for him when you're talking about? I want to address a little question that's off topic a little bit for Lawrence. Says, are we scared to get another good backup quarterback because of the way it all went down with QBs last time? It's hard to get a starting quarterback that's worth a damn.
Yeah.
So, get a good backup. Who's got a good backup? And, Travis answers that. He says, what actually is a good backup quarterback? There's like 10 to 12 good starters in the NFL. Getting a good backup quarterback, yeah, it's been hard enough to get a good starter. I don't think it's a lack of willingness. I think it's a lack of availability and resources to get them. Quarterbacks are going for $50 million a pop right now. What's a good backup going to cost you? 15, for a good one? So, it's more about the position itself than the willingness or we don't want to upset Russ or no. There's just not that many good quarterbacks out there. Michael Ranquillo comes in and says, how many interceptions will safeties Simmons and Jackson have together in the NFL season? What do you think, Nick? Give me a number. Give me an over-under for interceptions from Kareem Jackson and Justin Simmons.
Oh, man. This is typically I like to use based on historical precedent to see what the average is. So this is not researched at all. I'm going to go with 7. It seems
that's my number. I was thinking 7 exactly.
Yep.
Over under on this, I was thinking 7, maybe 6.
Yeah, I was 6
so
or 7.
If I'd set the over under on this at 7, and I'd probably take the under. So I'll say 6.5.
Yep,
6.5 would be my OU on that.
Me too.
It's just hard. It's hard to get interceptions. It's not the way everything's set up and the accuracy of the quarterbacks and the quick passing game. Getting interceptions is hard.
Yep.
They just don't throw. There's the bad quarterbacks are throwing 15 in a season right now. So it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, and it also interceptions are extremely volatile year to year. They're not really good predictors from one season to the next. So you could have Justin Simmons explode this year and get like 7 interceptions, and then the next season get 0. It's kind of the way it works. It's one reason that a lot of sorry, Colin, we're talking analytics here, but a lot of the data-driven people are so low on Diggs for the Cowboys because a lot of his EPA per play and a lot of his value comes from turning the ball over, which is a skill. It's just not as dependable, replicatable year to year, on top of Diggs giving up like a crazy number of yards,
1,500 yards against or something.
Yeah.
Which is okay if you're not giving up touchdowns. That's the bend but don't break offense. All right, you'll get down here, but I'm going to take it away from you. But what is, I'd be interested. They've got baseball down to such a science. Is like, what is the actual WAR? The wins against replacement on somebody like Diggs, who is giving up. It's like a guy that strikes out a ton but hits home runs. Frankly, Barry Bonds of the early 90s, I mean, Barry Bonds of the later, but why Barry Bonds ended up juicing is because he was the best baseball player in the game, and Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire were getting all the love. He goes, all right, you want to see home runs? I'll show you home runs. I'm going to turn my body into a chemistry set. But hitting 320 with an OPS, 1300 and getting on base and all that stuff, he was a better baseball player.
Yeah.
So are you better off hitting 50 home runs and striking out 250 times? Because that's Diggs. Diggs is giving up a ton. So he's a liability at times, but then he also makes the big play. And I know a guy like that would drive Vic Fangio crazy. I know that.
Yep. A good player if you have a very dynamic offense on the other side.
Get me the ball back.
Yep, exactly. So we have another question coming in here from Dale talking about the offensive line. How many sacks do you think the offensive line will give up this year? This one I actually did see and then was able to do a little bit of research as like what the parameters were for last year. The Packers and the 49ers tied for the least amount of sacks last year with 33, and you had the Bears give up the most with 58, with the Ravens right behind it with 57. And the Seahawks were 46, with the Broncos being about 40. I think cut the middle right there, about 44, 43 for the Broncos makes a lot of sense. Russell Wilson can sometimes be greedy with the football, but I don't think that's a bad thing, so to speak. Sometimes, if it's like 3rd and long, a sack doesn't hurt me so much as an interception or something. So if you're looking to create, not take yourself out of field goal range or touchdown range or anything like that, then I don't mind it as much. So about 44, 43, I think is the number that you should be looking on. We'll see, though. The right tackle spot and the AFC, that's a league average last year. But
okay. That seems high. Yeah, I mean, 25 would be best in the league. So
last year, the team with
Tampa was 23, Buffalo was 27. So 25 would be the league best.
Right. 23. So, okay, you're right.
That'd be a lot. So, but again, if you're thinking, 30, 35, that would be okay. That would be solid. But 25 would be a dream. That'd be a dream season, that's a goal, but not an expectation where, we gave up 26 sacks, we failed. No. 23 was the league leader, 25 was second. And after that, it was, 28. So 30 puts you top 5.
You are right. And the graph I was looking at did not list all the teams. So
I'm just so used to seeing Matt Ryan get slaughtered that I'm like, 25 would be a dream.
Yeah. 25 would be a dream. Let me see. Now that I see the range is 23 to 58, probably about 34.
35 would be good. Wouldn't be terrible.
Yeah. Especially, and the thing is, Russell Wilson's play style invites sacks because he's looking to hold on to the ball and create explosive plays down the field, which can lend itself to sacks sometimes. So you have to live with the good and the bad.
Denver gave up 40 last year with ice. I'd like to see, you could probably find this, but it seemed like they had to be lower third in offensive plays last year.
They were
in past attempts. They couldn't have been that high. But they still gave up 40 sacks. So you get down into the 35s with as much as you're going to want to throw the ball and holding onto the ball a little bit longer for the big plays, not just, to check down 3 times in a row or, missing blocking assignments. That, 35, I think, would be a good number for this team.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You're correct. We got Bama X coming in saying, good morning, Broncos country. Sorry, I'm a little late. That's okay. You're here hanging out.
I have a question for you, Bama. Can you root for another SEC team like Auburn in the College World Series? I was wondering. I mean, I could, but again, I grew up in Atlanta. I didn't grow up, in the Alabama-Auburn rivalry. So, I root for the SEC teams in the College World Series. So I was just wondering if you feel a little twing or it's like, I hope those some bitches get bounced in 2.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I'd be with Nebraska. Sorry, Nebraska fans out there. I mean, Toyin coming back in saying, ranking offensive lines must be so difficult given the degree of chemistry involved. Individually, they can be great, but if they can't work as a unit, then it doesn't matter. We don't know until we truly see it. And that's a good point. The other thing is, offensive lines are there's a specific type of word for this. It's a first failure system.
It's a chain, the weakest link in the chain.
Yes. So the first one to not do their job.
You could be four great across the board, but your system, your unit is going to fail at its weakest link.
Yep. It's the same as your back seven coverage players, so to speak. It's an opposite of pass catchers and pass rushers, where the first one to succeed system, then the whole unit succeeds. So everybody has to do their job. Nobody can fail for the unit to succeed, which makes it tough. And the other thing here that talking about ranking the offensive line, and you kind of hinted on it too, outside of the right tackle position, the Broncos have excellent depth. So while they maybe their ceiling isn't super high, can't think their floor is too low either, outside of the exception of the right tackle spot, which is definitely concerning for the Broncos this year. I saw a comment earlier. Bobby Massey is still out there. Is he the best fit for this scheme? Don't know. Also, I think Brandon Shell, who the Broncos brought in for a visit, is still out there as well. If Billy Turner's not progressing close to preseason, maybe they look to bring in somebody there just to take another shot and give themselves an option. So we'll see there. But overall, offensive line should be okay with, I think, a very small margin of how good or how bad they can be, given the depth. So I'm going to ask you a few questions here before we get on out.
Rapid fire. Hit 'em.
Rapid fire. Let's do it. The most important player on this Broncos offensive line this year is
Garrett Bowles.
Garrett Bowles. Expand.
I think he's your best, and he is your leader on there. If he goes down, you don't have a like for like replacement. We talked about the depth at the other positions, or we talked about the right tackle being maybe. Well, we got several maybes there. Any one of those other guys could go down, and you've got a fairly good like for like replacement. If Garrett Bowles goes down, you're in trouble. You have a significant downgrade from one left tackle to the next. Therefore, he becomes the most important player on your OL.
I don't disagree at all. Big season for him. His contract is set up that he's going to be here for another year or two. But if he has a down season this year, I wouldn't be shocked at all if the Broncos are looking to figure out a ways to manipulate that cap and do some things with Garrett Bowles. So we'll see how it looks out for him. Hopefully it's good, and the Broncos really need him to step up this season and show like he was in 2020.
Nick, his dead cap number drops to 8 next year.
Yep.
So it's 10 million savings by just waiving him outright.
Yep.
Which you don't want to see happen, but it's a $10 million savings if you say, okay, would I rather have $10 million or would I rather have Garrett Bowles?
When you're talking about the penny pinching that you'll have to have somewhat salary cap wise, paying Russell Wilson, and how the dynamics of how you build your roster on a rookie quarterback contract versus a $50 million a year quarterback, things change. You have to think about something like that. Mm-hmm. If Bowles is playing well, though, they'll figure out a way to keep him around. Yeah, that's the bottom line.
An elite left tackle is worth every penny they're paying him. That's why they paid him to begin with. Now it's up to him to keep it up, to play at that level. But I think even if he is not at that level, he's still by far the best tackle on the roster.
100%. Totally agree. Sunny days coming in with the sun, the hang loose, and the blue and orange hearts. Good to see you, Sunny days. Hope you're doing well over there on YouTube. The player on the offensive line that you have the most intrigue for this season, one that you just can't wait to see how they progress or how it plays out. Who's that guy?
Quinn Miners. Again, there hasn't been a lot of talk about him. The second-year leap out of coming from UW, Wisconsin Whitewater, I think is where he was. And, he is, again, I still like smash mouth football. It hurts me to watch a team that is getting bullied in the trenches. I'm like, that's just the basics. If you cannot compete in the trenches, you can't compete. Everything else we talk about, all of these analytics, they don't mean crap if you're getting your butt kicked on the lines of scrimmage.
Yep.
And Quinn Miners can change that. He can go out there and flip the script for you. I want to see what he does in year 2. New system, new coaches, same nasty attitude. So I will be on every snap in the second and a half of every snap that the Broncos play on offense. I will probably, if Miners is in there, I will have my eye on Quinn Miners.
Yeah, absolutely right. And you make a good point about the offensive line in the trenches. The further you get from the ball, the harder it is to be that first line of impact in the game. Quarterback's obviously first, but I've seen it in college football. I've seen it in the NFL. If a team is so thoroughly dominating you on one side of the trenches, you can't do anything else. And a lot of teams that are built that way make you play that way. It's something that the Iowa Hawkeyes and the Wisconsin Badgers have done for years. It's like, okay, you want to spread us out? we're going to be a rock fight, and you're going to get beat up so quickly up front that I don't give a hoot that you have 4 and 5 star receivers out there. We're going to just continually punch you in the mouth so you can't react and run what you want to run.
Body blow.
Yes. And we saw that last year with the Broncos facing the Baltimore Ravens. We saw that last year with the Broncos facing the Cleveland Browns. We saw that last year with the Broncos facing the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles as well. Yep. That outside stuff, those skill positions didn't matter because the Broncos were getting pantsed in the trenches on both sides of the ball. So will be interesting. Luckily, the Broncos schedule this year sets up where they don't play many teams that on paper right now look like dominating trench teams, especially with the offensive line running the football outside of the Titans, the Ravens, the 49ers. Those are the teams that stick out to me off the top of my head as ones that might be interesting matchups for the Broncos defense, but we'll see. It'll be a lot of fun. A couple more questions here, Scott. If the Broncos offensive line finishes as a top 10 unit this season, how far does this Broncos team go? What is their offense overall rank?
You are a Super Bowl contender, AFC championship type. You're talking about a top 5 sort of offense. Again, but usually when you're talking about the offensive line, you're talking about the other statistics that go with it, meaning you are running the ball effectively and your offense. I'm not sure exactly how to put this, but you cannot have, if you've got a good offensive line, you also have those numbers. They don't work the other way. You can't say, oh, my offensive line was really good, but we couldn't run the ball and couldn't pass the ball. It doesn't work that way. So if your offensive line is finishing top 10, your offense has to be finishing top 10. Now you can finish top 10 in offense without a good offensive line. But if you say, my given here in this equation is you have a top 10 offensive line, you got a top 10 offense.
Could it be a top 5 offense with a top 10 offensive line?
It could. It absolutely could.
Could it be the number 1 offense in the NFL with a top 10 offensive line?
We'll see. I think Hackett will want to be greedy enough, that he wouldn't be a run the ball, play action and beat him. We'll see. I think that's kind of a staple of the offense, but you're going to get some shots later where, we've got a lead and they're stacking the box. We're going to take some shots to kill the game off. And all of a sudden you get, instead of needing a quarter and a half to get 70 yards, you'll get them in one play and then you'll get the ball back again. So you're going to have, I think we said, Nick, you think 30% more offensive plays this year is a fair number? 25% at least. Right in that number of offensive plays. So you're going to climb up that number just through osmosis, just through basic math. So yes, it can be a top 5 offense. It can be.
And same question with the other end, bottom 10 offensive line. What does this offense look like? What's going on with the Broncos?
Middle of the pack. I think you're down in the teens. I think the offense will still be better. You were close to that number last year. Not quite. You were close to that number last year. It felt like that last year with the sacks, the inability to run the ball in short yardage situations, the pressure's coming dead up the middle. But the quarterback play will be better for sure. You'll have the quarterback play is going to be a lot better, period. And when you've got that, you get more respect from the defense. So if you've got more respect for the defense, it lets you do more on offense. It lets you, I'm going to run the ball on 2nd and 9 and pick up 6 and get into a 3rd and 3. You shouldn't be facing as many 3rd and 9s. It was 3rd and 7 or more all year long last year, all year. So, hopefully when you run the ball, you're getting 3 yards at least. You're not looking at 3rd and 9 every freaking time you've got the ball.
Yep. And final question, as far as the offensive functioning, where does the quality of the offensive line fall as importance where the offense ranks this season?
I would say, my first thought, just because I feel like we talked about the units and the links in a chain, everything else I think is strong. At least we think it is. We think that Russell Wilson is going to come in and not miss a beat. 29-7 last year in a down season is a really good year. Let's keep him healthy the whole time. And if you're talking 35 touchdowns against 9 interceptions, that's a huge year. 4,300, 4,400 yards. Okay. That should be reasonable expectations. You got 2 good running backs. You've got a slew of good pass catchers. So the importance of the offensive line for this team is incredibly important because right now it looks like the weakest link on offense.
And according to Pro Football Focus, it is the weakest link on offense. Russell Wilson was ranked, like 8 or something on their quarterbacks. You had the running backs coming in 9th. You had the pass catchers coming in 10th. And you had the offensive line coming in 16th. So it is the biggest, the lowest ranked one. I will say that I'll probably put it 2nd or 3rd as far as importance for the offense this season. Number 1, without question, is the quarterback. And I got to say, this is something that I don't think people appreciate enough. It's like there's so much more value with a quarterback. And you kind of touched on it too. But like Russell Wilson being a top 10 quarterback to him being a top 3 quarterback this season, in my opinion, is a difference of 5 wins on the schedule. You're talking about a team that's going, 10-7 versus a team that's winning 13, 14, 15 games and that doesn't feel like that's only 5 spots. It's magnitudes of difference where the offensive line going from 16 to 10 maybe is 2 wins. So quarterback far and away number 1. Is Russell Wilson playing at an MVP level or is he a Pro Bowl level? Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr tier where it's like top 10, top 12. That makes a huge difference. After that, it's probably just the competency of the coaching staff and the new scheme in general. We talked about it on Tuesday's episode. Broncos have a lot of wide receivers and a lot of different weapons to win games. That's awesome if your offensive staff can scheme week to week and pick the matchups. It's not as simple as if you have Calvin Johnson, we're going to throw the ball to Calvin Johnson. There's not much, hard game planning to that, where the Broncos have to identify weaknesses in matchups and installs week to week, and then make sure they're pushing the right buttons with all the different buttons. Not as easy as smashing the A button for Calvin Johnson. So,
and I think the rankings for the entire unit on the offensive line is much more subjective. Mm-hmm. If there was an objective way to measure, yes, I've got a number 10 offensive line, versus a number 5. We might say it's more important, but the degrees are so slim that it's just tougher to tell. Yep. And again, with so few really good quarterbacks out there, it's easy to see yards, interceptions, which end up coming into ratings and all of the data that we have around the quarterback position, that there is a steep drop off. Whereas, the units for the offensive line, it's a little bit tougher to tell. So be out there and be competent and be a plus. And your offense should be a top 10 offense, which will then turn into credit for the offensive line.
100%. Well, guys, that's going to have to do it for us today. We're running a little bit late, and I got to get down to my sister's wedding venue to help set up.
This is Broncos for breakfast. Come on. Where are the priorities in this family?
I did bring the computer and all the recording equipment across country to do it. So there are some priorities there. Didn't want to miss out on all the fun, which even though it's, we're approaching real dead season for the off season here, gonna enjoy it and enjoy hanging out with you guys. But make sure you're following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I am at Nick Kendell MHH. Also make sure you're following us at, that's the wrong, why does it do this? MHI Pod. Nope. Follow us at
follow MHI Pod too. That's okay with us.
Yeah, why not? But also follow us at BFB_pod and of course at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you head to huddleuppod.com to check out the gear there, the merchandise. We got obviously the Mile High Huddle, Huddle Up Podcast Priest gear. They're doing stuff, a radio bit on Mile High Sports now as well. So make sure you're checking them out and following them there. Got obviously all the different hats, the gears, the shirts. So check that out at huddleuppod.com. If you haven't done so yet, if you are still on Facebook and enjoying that, I must be getting old because I still do enjoy posting pictures on Facebook and all of that stuff. Follow us at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. Haven't called this a shout out in a bit, but please make sure you're heading to Apple Podcasts and finding us at the Huddle Up Podcast there, Mile High Huddle, giving us a 5-star rating and leaving us a comment and a review. That helps us a lot. There's a lot of great Broncos media content creators out there. I don't think anybody is as consistent day to day as us, just burying you guys with all kinds of content, video, audio, written content, social media content, et cetera, et cetera. So make sure you're finding us on there, scrolling down and give us a 5-star review and a comment. And please, if you haven't done so yet on YouTube, find us, Mile High Huddle. Click the bell notification so you know when we go live. That's a big help. So that way it's like, oh, that's right. Especially for the Huddle Up guys, because they don't always start at the same time. When they go live if you click that bell notification. Also, like, subscribe, and share to the Mile High Huddle channel over on YouTube. So that way you're there. It's not just the podcast, the live stream shows. There's a bunch of different content that we have going on there. So you guys want to check that out.
Yeah, be sure to check out the show tonight with Zach. Zach will be solo tonight on the MHH pod, so he could use your help. Make sure you're active in the chat. Other than that, thanks for being here, everybody. Make sure you're following our new MHH account, Cat at MHH. We're gonna turn Nick into the faux Pelini with the cat hanging over his shoulder. So,
Yeah.
But yes, great show today. I had a lot of fun. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. We appreciate it. Probably the last show with that cat, but maybe I'll bring Queso, my big Maine Coon cat.
It sounds so final.
Yeah, well, yeah. But we appreciate you guys. You guys have a great rest of your day. Stay cool if you're somewhere where it's hot. Choose kindness, choose compassion. Happy Thursday. Go Broncos.